All right, thanks for that, guys. You know, one thing that all city leaders can agree on is that the violence and the looting, it's got to stop. Here's City Council President Darrell Clarke on day one.
Today, in the city of Philadelphia, we've done a lot of things to try to make it better for everybody, right? And I understand that as we talk about the new normal can't be the old normal.
And Council President Clarke joins us now live. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Wish were better times. It's been a very challenging last couple of days.
Absolutely. You know, watching what has been happening in this city and early this morning, over the weekend, early this morning, it really breaks your heart. It's exhausting. You grew up in Philadelphia. What was your reaction to seeing things get so out of control?
Yeah, well, you know, I've lived here all my life. I love my city. First, I want to continue to say my prayers to the Floyd family. Saw a very moving speech by his brother today. He talked about continuing the protest, and I concur with that. But he also asked people to please stop looting our community so we can sit down and have real talk. The simple reality is, having grown up in North Philadelphia, I get it. I've seen the changes. I've seen over a period of time the inequities. I talked about the fact that, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood when there was no such thing as a police advisory council. There was no such thing as rules as it related to interaction of police and individuals. I mean, it was what it was, right? There are changes, but do there need to be additional police form? Absolutely. And the simple reality is that we look at the new normal. We talk about the COVID and its impact, talk about going to yellow. As we talk about the new normal, the reality is it can't just be the new normal that's basically a scaled down version of the old normal, because the old normal wasn't okay. The old normal had too many inequities as to access to health care. The old normal had too many inequities as it relates to the ability to get healthy food choices, too many inequities as it related to having adequate education, affordable quality housing that would not allow people to get a significant level of asthma, as we've seen in our neighborhoods. And this whole issue with respect to the police reform is a real thing. We get it. All of us get it. But we need to be in a position where we sit down and have meaningful and thoughtful conversation. We can make this better. We can make this better. We've shown that in a number of instances. So we're just simply asking the people to please, just stop, and think about the long-term impact on your neighborhoods. Yeah. I know all of you love your communities. I know I love my community, and the simple reality is that we're just asking us to please, let's just sit down and have a real conversation. What we as elected officials need to continue to do, the direction, we can't do it without you. So we're ready to have that conversation in a real meaningful way. And it can't just be just conversation. It has to be actionable issues that we put on the table.
Yeah, don't dilute the message with all of this other stuff. Things actually started out in a good place on Saturday with the protests in memory of George Floyd, and then it kind of spiraled. And all of this comes on top of the COVID-19 pandemic. The deaths, the job losses. People are really hurting. How big of a setback is this, do you think?
Well, this is a real concern when you talk to healthcare professionals as it relates to the impact, because the virus is still here. It's warm weather and people are starting to enjoy themselves. But the simple reality is we can pivot back to red real quick. There's some concerns about the fact that we might move to yellow, which is a more liberalized approach to being able to have activities out in neighborhoods. If we're not careful, we will have a new lockdown. That's the last thing we want to have on top of what we're dealing with. This is unfortunately somewhat of a perfect storm, but only we can direct the storm in the appropriate way. So that's why we're really, I don't like to beg, but I'm begging people really to please, come on guys, sit down, let's talk about it, let's figure it out, let's point it in the right direction and save our communities.
Absolutely, be smart about it. City Council President Darrell Clarke, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.